The money sat there like a miracle she didn't pray for. 10 crisp $100 bills spread across the white marble conference table, still warm from being pulled from a wallet in panic. Jessica's cleaning rag froze mid-swipe. Her hand hovered over the cash, trembling so badly she had to grip the edge of the table to steady herself. The executive floor was completely empty. The cameras in this section had a blind spot. She'd cleaned here for 3 years, she knew every angle. Security wouldn't make their rounds for another 45 seconds. The other night cleaners were 2 floors down. It was just her, the gleaming glass office, and $1,000 that wasn't hers. She knew it was a mistake. She'd seen the billionaire's face when he got that phone call just minutes ago. Watched him go rigid at his desk, watched the color drain from his skin. Heard his voice crack when he whispered, "How much time does she have?" Watched him grab his coat, his wallet flying open as he pulled out cash for something, a tip habit maybe, the bills landing on the table without a glance, without a count. His mind already at whatever hell was waiting for him at St. Vincent's Hospital. This wasn't abandoned money. This was terror in cash form. And taking it would be theft. But walking away meant the eviction notice on her fridge became reality in 48 hours. Meant her daughter Maribel wouldn't get the insulin refill the pharmacy had called about twice today. Meant another night taking 2 buses home because her car had been dead in the parking lot for 2 weeks. Meant looking at her baby girl's face and explaining why mommy couldn't afford the medicine that kept her alive. Her bank account showed $12.47. The insulin cost $380. The rent was $2,400 past due. She had 45 seconds before security finished their rotation. 45 seconds to make a choice. 45 seconds to decide who she really was when nobody could see her. When the only witness was the woman staring back from the darkened window reflection, exhausted, invisible, desperate. What she did in the next 7 minutes didn't just change her life. It exposed a truth that would shake an entire company and prove that character isn't what you claim in the light. It's what you choose in the dark when survival is screaming at you to look the other way. But first, she had to make a decision her daughter might never forgive her for. Then she had to catch a billionaire racing toward the worst night of his life. And she had exactly 7 minutes before his car left the parking garage forever. Jessica H. Solis wasn't supposed to be a hero. She was supposed to be invisible. The woman in the blue company cap and gray uniform who cleaned up other people's messes and disappeared before sunrise. The single mother who took pride in work nobody noticed, who knew every corner of the building better than the executives who ran it. But standing there with $100 bills within reach, she was about to become the most visible person in that building. She just didn't know it yet. Before we continue with Jessica's impossible choice, I need you to do something. If you believe in integrity over survival, if you want to see what happens when someone chooses character over cash, hit that subscribe button right now. This story gets more shocking with every minute, and you don't want to miss what happens next. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's see who Jessica H. Solis really is when nobody's watching. Jessica H. Solis had been invisible for exactly 3 years, 2 months, and 14 days. Not literally invisible, of course, but close enough. 28 years old and she'd perfected the art of existing in spaces without being seen. The night shift cleaner at Barnett Technologies. The woman who arrived at 10 p.m. when the executives were long gone and left at 6 a.m. before they returned, leaving behind nothing but the scent of lemon polish and the gleam of perfectly maintained surfaces. The Barnett Technologies headquarters was a monument to wealth she only experienced after hours. 40,000 square feet of glass and steel and marble, where decisions that moved billions of dollars happened on the very tables she scrubbed. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city like a kingdom. Italian leather chairs that cost more than her annual salary surrounded conference tables where men in $1,000 suits decided the future of technology. Modern art on the walls, pieces she'd Googled once out of curiosity and found were worth more than her apartment building. She cleaned all of it. Every surface, every corner, every overlooked detail. And she took pride in that work, even if nobody noticed. Especially because nobody noticed. There was dignity in doing a job well, her mother had taught her that. Even if the job meant your feet screamed in worn-out shoes by hour 4. Even if it meant hiding exhausted eyes under a blue company cap. Even if it meant being so thoroughly invisible that executives walked past you like you were furniture. Tonight, like every night, she'd taken 2 buses to get here. An hour and 20 minutes of travel time for a 40-minute drive, all because her car had been dead in the parking lot for 2 weeks. The mechanic said it needed $600 worth of work. She'd said thank you and walked away because there was no point in discussing repairs she couldn't afford. The bus routes had become her new normal. Get off work at 6 a.m., catch the first bus at 6:15, transfer at Palmer Street, arrive home by 7:45. Shower quickly. Collapse into bed next to Maribel for 3 hours before the afternoon shift started all over again. Maribel. 6 years old with her grandmother's smile and a diagnosis that was slowly crushing them both. Juvenile diabetes. Type 1. The kind that required constant monitoring, expensive insulin, test strips, doctor visits, and a mother who was failing at keeping up with all of it. The pharmacy had called twice today. Maribel's insulin prescription was ready for pickup. $380. Needed by tomorrow afternoon. Jessica's bank account showed $12.47. She'd done the math so many times she had it memorized. If she skipped her own meals for 3 days, borrowed money from Mrs. Chen again, and maybe pawned her mother's necklace, the only thing of value she owned, she might scrape together $200. Maybe. Which left her $180 short and Maribel without the medication that kept her alive. And then there was the eviction notice. Crisp and official, taped to her apartment door 3 days ago. $2,400 in back rent. Pay by Friday or vacate the premises. 48 hours from now. She'd already asked her landlord for an extension twice. Mr. Hayes was a decent man, but he had bills too. He couldn't carry her forever. Tonight, Maribel was staying with Mrs. Chen, their neighbor in 3B. A kind woman who'd taken them under her wing, who watched Maribel during Jessica's night shifts and refused payment half the time. Jessica hated being a burden. Hated the weight of owing people kindness she couldn't repay. But what choice did she have? Single mothers didn't get the luxury of pride. So she cleaned. 40,000 square feet, 8 hours a night, 6 nights a week. She knew this building better than anyone. Knew which bathroom stall had a loose tile, which window in the south wing didn't close completely, where the security cameras had blind spots. She noticed everything. The executives who worked here looked but didn't see. Jessica saw everything. Like the way the CFO always left exactly 3 pencils on his desk before leaving. Like how the lead designer drank chamomile tea every afternoon and left the cup on the credenza. Like how Jason Barnett, the billionaire CEO himself, worked late exactly twice a week and always left his reading glasses in the same spot on his desk. She cleaned the executive floor last. Always saved it for the end of her shift because it was the quietest, the most peaceful. Up here, surrounded by the evidence of power and wealth, she could almost pretend she was part of something bigger. That her work mattered. That someone might notice the care she put into every detail. They never did. But she did it anyway. Because that's who Jessica Solis was when nobody was watching. At least, that's who she'd been. Until tonight. Until $100 bills turned her entire understanding of herself into a question she had 7 minutes to answer. Jason Barnett had built an empire by understanding patterns. At 35, he'd turned a garage startup into Barnett Technologies, a company worth $4.7 billion, by seeing connections others missed. He was brilliant, driven, relentless. The kind of man who worked until 11 p.m. on merger deals worth 9 figures while his competitors slept. Tonight, he sat in the main conference room surrounded by spreadsheets and projections, His navy blazer still crisp despite 12 hours of wear, his white shirt still pressed. Confidence radiated from him like heat. What he didn't see were the patterns of his own life unraveling. Didn't notice he'd missed 3 Sunday dinners with his mother. Didn't register that 2 weeks had passed since their last phone call. Didn't recognize that building an empire meant losing connection with the person who'd sacrificed everything to make that empire possible. His phone rang at 10:47 p.m. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Mr. Barnett, this is St. Vincent's Hospital. Your mother, Lorraine Barnett, has had a massive stroke. You need to come immediately. The spreadsheets in front of him stopped making sense. The numbers blurred into meaningless shapes. His mind, so sharp seconds ago, went completely blank except for one thought: Mom. How much time does she have? His voice sounded strange. Distant. Like someone else was speaking through his mouth. Sir, we need you here as soon as possible. Lorraine Barnett. 63 years old. The woman who'd raised him alone after his father walked out when Jason was 7. Who'd worked 2 jobs, secretary during the day, hotel cleaning at night, to afford his private school tuition. Who'd believed in him when he said he wanted to build something that mattered. Who'd mortgaged her house to give him seed money for his first startup. Who he'd been too busy to call for 14 days. His world, so carefully constructed, so meticulously controlled, shattered in the span of a heartbeat. He was on his feet, grabbing his coat, his mind already at the hospital. The merger deal forgotten. The spreadsheets abandoned. His wallet came out, muscle memory from 1,000 business dinners where you left cash as you exited. He pulled out bills, threw them on the table without counting, without looking. $1,000 that meant nothing to a man worth $2.3 billion and everything to a man who just realized he might not get to say goodbye. His phone rang again. The doctor's voice, urgent now, she's asking for you. Please hurry. He ran. Jason Barnett, who never ran, who projected control in every situation, sprinted through his own headquarters like the building was on fire. Jessica watched from the supply closet as he raced past. Saw his face, the raw terror, the anguish, the guilt. Saw him disappear into the elevator, his hand shaking as he stabbed the button. The doors closed on a man who looked nothing like a billionaire and everything like a terrified son. Raymond, the security guard making his rounds, stopped beside her. Shook his head slowly. That's Jason Barnett, he said quietly. Worth $2.3 billion. Just got a call about his mother. Stroke, I heard him say on the phone. Man probably doesn't even know what day it is right now. Jessica looked back at the conference room. At the money on the table. At the evidence of a man whose world had just ended. And she understood, in that moment, that wealth meant nothing when you were racing toward loss. Jessica pushed her cleaning cart into the conference room 15 minutes later, her mind still on the terror in Jason Barnett's eyes. She'd seen that look before. Knew exactly what it meant. Then she saw the money. 10 crisp $100 bills spread across the pristine white marble table like an offering. Like an answer to prayers she'd stopped believing would be heard. Her knees went weak. The room tilted. Her blue cleaning rag slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a soft thud that sounded like thunder in the silence. She gripped the edge of the table to stay upright, her vision tunneling until all she could see was the cash. She touched each bill with a trembling finger. Counted them twice. $1,000 exactly. The math exploded in her brain like fireworks. This was Maribel's insulin for 3 months. This was the eviction notice cancelled, the late fees paid, the fear of homelessness erased. This was her car repaired, her freedom from 4-hour bus commutes restored. This was groceries, medicine, breathing room. This was the miracle she'd been praying for every night on her knees beside Maribel's bed. She glanced up. The security camera in the corner pointed toward the door, not the table. She'd cleaned this room 1,000 times. She knew the blind spots better than she knew her own reflection. Nobody was around. Just her and Raymond downstairs at the security desk, probably watching last night's game on his phone. The other cleaners were 2 floors down. It was 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night in a building that had already emptied hours ago. The rationalization started like a whisper and built to a roar. He's a billionaire. $2.3 billion, Raymond said. This is literally nothing to him. He probably spends this much on lunch. He won't even miss it. He left it here. Finders keepers. Your daughter needs medicine. Maribel needs you to take this. What kind of mother chooses pride over her child's health? Dios mío, Jessica. Is that real money? Maria appeared in the doorway, her eyes wide, her cleaning cart forgotten. She crossed herself quickly, staring at the bills like they might disappear. Take it, Mija, Maria whispered, glancing over her shoulder. Nobody will know. Rich people lose more than this in their couch cushions. My cousin cleans for a hedge fund manager, you should see what they leave lying around. They don't even notice. Jessica's hand hovered over the money. Her fingers were inches away. One movement and everything changed. One choice and Maribel got her medicine. One decision and they weren't homeless. Then she heard it. The echo of Jason's voice, raw and broken. How much time does she have? The realization hit her like cold water. He wasn't a rich man right now. He wasn't a billionaire, wasn't a CEO, wasn't worth $2.3 billion. He was a terrified son racing toward his mother's deathbed. He was a man whose world had just shattered. And suddenly Jessica was 19 again. Running through hospital corridors at 2 a.m. Her mother's hand already cold in hers. The doctor's voice saying, "I'm sorry, we did everything we could." The crushing, suffocating weight of being too late. Of all the things left unsaid. She knew that fear. That desperate race against time. That primal terror of losing the person who gave you life. It's not mine, Jessica whispered. He needs it more than I do. Maria gasped. You're going to give it back. Jessica, think about Maribel. The tears came then, hot and fast, streaming down Jessica's face. I am thinking about Maribel. I'm thinking about what kind of mother she deserves. What kind of person I want her to become. What's the point of keeping her alive if I teach her that survival means stealing from people in their darkest moments? Maria stared at her like she'd lost her mind. Maybe she had. Maybe poverty had finally broken something essential in her brain. But her hands were already gathering the money. Already making the choice her daughter might never forgive her for. Jessica shoved the money into her apron pocket and ran for the elevator. Then stopped. Changed direction. The stairs would be faster. She had to catch him before he left. Raymond, she called out, racing past the security desk. Which hospital? Raymond looked up, startled. St. Vincent's. Why? But she was already gone, hitting the stairwell door at full speed. 12 flights down to the parking garage. Her cheap shoes slipped on the polished concrete, her hand gripping the railing to keep from falling. Her lungs burned by the 3rd floor. By the 6th, her legs were screaming. By the 9th, she couldn't feel her feet anymore. The internal battle raged with every step. You're insane. Turn around. Go back upstairs. This is your chance. Your only chance. Maribel's face when you tell her you can't afford her insulin. The eviction notice taped to your door. Mr. Hayes saying he's sorry but he has no choice. Sleeping in your car except you don't have a car because it's been dead for 2 weeks. The shelter. Maribel crying because she doesn't understand why everything is changing. But his mother is dying. Your daughter is sick now. He has billions. You have $12. What kind of fool chooses a stranger over her own child? She burst through the parking garage door, gasping for air. Scanned the rows of cars desperately. There, Jason's black Range Rover, pulling toward the exit, tail lights glowing red in the dim garage. Mr. Barnett. Jessica screamed, waving her arms, running. Wait. The SUV didn't stop. The windows were too dark, tinted. He couldn't see her. Didn't hear her. The vehicle was already at the exit ramp, turning toward the street. Jessica's body was screaming at her to stop. Her vision blurred. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might explode. But she pushed harder, sprinting with everything she had left. This was it. 7 minutes to choose who she was. 7 minutes to decide if survival mattered more than soul. She reached the exit ramp just as the Range Rover's front wheels hit the street. Threw herself in front of the hood, pounding on the window with both fists. Mr. Barnett. Please. The brake lights flared. The SUV stopped. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Jessica stood there gasping, doubled over, her reflection staring back at her from the tinted window. A woman in a blue cap and gray uniform who just chased down a billionaire to return money she desperately needed. The window lowered slowly. Jason's face appeared. Tear-streaked. Destroyed. Confused. His eyes were red, his expression hollow. He looked at her like he was trying to remember who she was, where he was, what was real. "Sir, it's one of the cleaning staff," said a voice from the passenger seat. Marcus, Jason's security guard, leaned forward slightly, his hand moving toward his belt out of instinct. Jason blinked. Stared at Jessica. His mouth opened but no words came out. Jessica straightened, her hand reaching into her apron pocket. Her fingers closed around the bills. The weight of them felt like anchors. Like gravity itself was trying to stop her from making the biggest mistake of her life. "Mr. Barnett," she managed between gasps. "You forgot something." Jason stared at her like she was speaking a language he didn't understand. "What?" "I don't, I have to go." "You left money," Jessica said, still gasping for air. "At the office. On the conference table. I think you forgot it." His face went blank. His eyes unfocused. He wasn't comprehending. His mind was already at the hospital, already holding his mother's hand, already too late. Jessica pulled the bills from her apron pocket. Held them toward the window. $100 bills, slightly wrinkled from being clutched in her fist during the run down 12 flights of stairs. Jason's eyes focused. Recognition dawned slowly, like sunrise breaking through fog. Then shock. His mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Silence. 5 seconds that felt like 5 hours. "You." His voice was barely a whisper. "You came all the way here to return this?" "It's yours," Jessica said simply. "You were upset. I knew you didn't mean to leave it." Jason stared at the money. Then at Jessica's face. Then back at the money. Like he was trying to solve an equation that didn't make sense. Marcus, the security guard in the passenger seat, turned to look at Jessica with an expression that matched his boss's, complete, stunned disbelief. "Do you know who I am?" Jason asked. "Yes, sir. You're Mr. Barnett. You own the company. And you know what I'm worth?" Jessica hesitated. "I've read its billions." Jason's voice cracked. "Then why would you bring this back? Why wouldn't you just keep it?" Jessica met his eyes. Saw the pain there, the confusion, the desperate need to understand something good in a world that had just turned cruel. "Because it's not mine. And because." She paused, choosing her words carefully, "because I heard you on the phone. About your mother. And I'm so sorry. I lost my mother when I was 19, and I remember that feeling. I remember that race to the hospital. Jason's composure shattered. He covered his face with his hands, his shoulders shaking. Marcus looked away, his professional mask slipping, revealing something human underneath. Jessica stood there, still holding the money, feeling like an intruder on private grief. "You should go to her, Mr. Barnett," she said gently. "Don't let her wait. Nothing else matters right now." Jason lowered his hands slowly. When he looked at Jessica again, there was something new in his expression. Raw wonder. Like he was seeing something he didn't know existed. "What's your name?" "Jessica Solis, sir. I clean the executive floor." "How long have you worked for my company, Jessica?" 3 years, sir." Jason shook his head slowly, a sad smile crossing his face. 3 years. And I've never seen you. It wasn't a question. It was an indictment. The silence stretched between them. A billionaire in his Range Rover and a cleaning woman in worn-out shoes, separated by everything except the most fundamental human experience, loss, fear, the knowledge that love matters more than money. "This money," Jason said finally. "Do you need it?" Jessica looked away. Couldn't meet his eyes. "That's not why I'm here." "But do you need it?" The honest answer stuck in her throat. "Yes. God, yes. More than you could possibly understand." But saying it out loud would change what this was. Would turn integrity into transaction. "Yes," she whispered. "But I didn't come here for money. I came because it was the right thing to do." Jason stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something that surprised them both. He started to laugh. Not happy laughter. The kind that comes when the universe reveals something so absurd, so impossibly unlikely, that the only response is wonder. "You're extraordinary," he said. "Do you know that?" Jessica didn't know how to answer. So she just held out the money again, waiting for him to take it so she could go back to being invisible. If you're still watching at this point, drop a comment with "I'm still here." Let's see who's truly following this shocking story. Because what happens next will make you question everything you thought you knew about wealth, poverty, and what really matters in life. Don't go anywhere. Jessica's decision is about to change both their lives in ways nobody saw coming. "Follow us to the hospital," Jason said suddenly. "Please." "I need to," his voice broke. He couldn't finish. Jessica stepped back. "I don't have a car, sir. It's broken down. I took the bus here." "Then ride with us. Please." It wasn't a command. It was a plea. From a man who just had his understanding of the world turned upside down by a cleaning woman who chased him down to return money she desperately needed. Jessica climbed into the back of the Range Rover, clutching her blue cleaning rag without realizing it. The 15-minute drive to St. Vincent's was mostly silent except for Jason's voice on the phone with the hospital. "I'm 5 minutes away. Tell her I'm coming. Tell her I love her." His hand shook as he gripped his phone. Marcus drove with professional calm, but Jessica could see the tension in his shoulders. At the hospital, Jason rushed inside, Marcus following close behind. Jessica waited in the vehicle, uncertain. She didn't belong here. This was private, family business. She'd returned the money. Her part was done. 10 minutes passed. Then Marcus reappeared at the passenger door. "He wants you to come in. He's asking for you." Jessica stared. "Me? Why?" Marcus shook his head. "I don't know. But he's insistent." The ICU waiting room was exactly what Jessica remembered from her own nightmare years ago. Sterile, fluorescent, that particular smell of fear and disinfectant that no amount of cleaning could ever eliminate. Jason sat alone in a plastic chair, head in his hands, looking nothing like a billionaire and everything like a broken son. Jessica approached carefully. "Mr. Barnett?" He looked up. His eyes were red, swollen. "She's in surgery. Removing the blood clot. They're saying it's a 50/50th chance. Jessica sat across from him. I'm so sorry. I haven't been a good son, Jason said, the words tumbling out like a confession. I've been so focused on the business. Board meetings and stock prices and market share. I missed her birthday last month. Sent flowers and a check instead of showing up. She knows you love her, Jessica said quietly. Jason laughed, but it was bitter, self-lacerating. Does she? When's the last time I told her? When's the last time I sat with her and just listened? You're here now. That's what matters. Jason looked at her with desperate hope. You said you lost your mother. Jessica nodded. When I was 19. Breast cancer. By the time they found it, it had spread. Were you with her? At the end? Every moment. I held her hand. I told her everything, thanked her for every sacrifice, every late night working 2 jobs, every time she went without so I could have. I made sure she knew. Jason's tears fell freely now. What if I don't get that chance? Jessica leaned forward. Then you go in there when she's out of surgery, and you tell her anyway. Even if she's unconscious. Even if she can't respond. You tell her. Because hearts hear what voices can't say. The silence that followed felt sacred somehow. Your daughter, Jason said suddenly. You mentioned she's sick. Jessica was surprised he remembered. Juvenile diabetes. It's manageable, but the insulin is expensive, and she stopped. I'm sorry. You don't need to hear this. Not now. No. Tell me. Please. Jason gestured helplessly at the waiting room, the closed surgical doors. I need to think about something other than. So Jessica talked. About Maribel's laugh. Her resilience. How she never complained about the needle pricks, the blood sugar tests, the constant monitoring. How she wanted to be a doctor when she grew up so she could help other kids who were scared. Jason listened. Really listened. The way people do when their own crisis makes them suddenly aware that everyone is carrying something heavy. 2 hours passed. Then the surgical doors opened. A tired surgeon in blue scrubs appeared. Mr. Barnett? Your mother is out of surgery. The surgeon's smile was tired but genuine. The surgery went well. We removed the clot. She's stable. The next 48 hours are critical, but she's a fighter. Jason's relief was physical. He sagged against the wall like someone had cut the strings holding him upright. His hand pressed against his chest, his breath coming in ragged gasps that were half laugh, half sob. Jessica stood. I'm so glad, Mr. Barnett. I should go. Let you be with your mother. Wait. Please. Jason reached into his jacket, pulled out a leather checkbook. Jessica's stomach dropped. I want to, Jason fumbled with a pen. You came all this way, you brought back the money, you stayed with me. No. Please don't. Let me help you. Your daughter's insulin, your rent, Marcus told me what you said in the car. Mr. Barnett, Jessica's voice was firm now. I didn't do this for money. I did it because it was right. I know that, Jason said, his eyes pleading. That's exactly why I want to help. If you give me money now, it changes what this was. It makes it a transaction. And it wasn't. It was just one human being helping another. Jason stared at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. You're extraordinary. Do you know that? Jessica shifted uncomfortably. I'm just a cleaner who did what anyone should do. But most people wouldn't, Jason said quietly. I've built a billion-dollar company, and I'm surrounded by people who would have kept that money without a second thought. Hell, I'm surrounded by people who would have found a way to justify taking even more. He put the checkbook away. Pulled out a business card instead. Wrote something on the back, handed it to her. Jessica looked. His personal cell number, written in sharp, precise handwriting. If you need anything, and I mean anything, you call me. Will you promise me that? Jessica hesitated. Mr. Barnett. Jason. Please. His smile was fragile but real. After tonight, I think we can use first names. Jessica managed a small smile. Okay, Jason. Promise me, Jessica. If things get desperate, if your daughter needs something, if you're in trouble, you call. Don't let pride stop you. Jessica was honest. I don't know if I can make that promise. Jason's expression softened. Then promise me you'll keep the card. That's all. Just keep it. That I can do. She turned to leave, her worn-out shoes squeaking slightly on the hospital linoleum. The blue cleaning rag was still clutched in her left hand, damp from nervous sweat. Jessica. She looked back. Jason's eyes were clear now despite the tears still drying on his face. Thank you. For giving me back more than money tonight. Jessica didn't trust herself to speak. She just nodded and walked away, past the surgical doors, past the nurse's station, past Marcus who stood with his professional mask back in place but something knowing in his eyes. Outside, the night air hit her like a slap. She just refused money from a billionaire. Money that could have solved every problem crushing her. Money her daughter needed to survive. She pulled out her phone. 2 missed calls from Mrs. Chen. A text, Maribel asking for you. She's okay, just missing Mama. Jessica looked at the business card in her hand. At the number written there in sharp, precise handwriting. At the promise of help she didn't know if she was strong enough to accept or proud enough to refuse. Then she put it in her pocket and started the long walk to the bus stop. The bus ride home took 90 minutes and 2 transfers. Jessica watched the city pass through scratched windows, her reflection a ghost against the darkness outside. She arrived at her apartment at 1:30 a.m., every muscle in her body screaming, her mind replaying the night's events on an endless loop. Mrs. Chen was on the couch, reading a paperback with worn corners. 60-something, with kind eyes and hands that had raised 3 children and buried 1 husband. She looked up when Jessica entered. She had a good night. Blood sugar stable. Jessica pulled out her wallet. $12. Everything she had left in the world. Mrs. Chen, I can't thank you enough. Mrs. Chen waved her hand dismissively, but when she saw Jessica's face, the exhaustion, the tears barely held back, her expression softened. Keep it, honey. You need it more than I do. After Mrs. Chen left, Jessica stood alone in her small apartment. Clean but threadbare. Furniture from thrift stores and sidewalks. Walls that needed paint she couldn't afford. The eviction notice still taped to the refrigerator like an accusation. 2 days left. The empty insulin bottle sat on the counter. Maribel's prescription ran out tomorrow afternoon. The second guessing started then. Brutal and relentless. You could have kept that money. Maribel would be safe. You chose pride over your daughter's health. What kind of mother does that? A stupid one. A self-righteous one. One who thinks integrity matters more than insulin. She climbed into bed next to Maribel in the apartment's only bedroom. Held her close, feeling the warmth of her small body, the steady rhythm of her breathing. Maribel stirred. Mama? Shoo, baby. I'm here. I had a dream you were a superhero. Jessica's tears came silently in the darkness. Just a regular mom, sweetheart. Maribel's sleepy voice was certain. Same thing. The next day, Jessica called the pharmacy. The pharmacist recognized her voice. Everyone who worked there knew Maribel's name by heart. It's $380, Jessica. I'm sorry. But I can give you 3 days worth for $45. That's the best I can do. Jessica borrowed $33 from Mr. Hayes, her landlord, who added it to her growing debt with an apologetic shrug. 3 days of insulin. Then what? She didn't let herself think that far ahead. That night at work, she cleaned the executive floor. Stood in front of the conference table where the money had been. Maria appeared beside her. Any regrets? Jessica was honest. Every 5 minutes. But also none. Day 3 arrived like an executioner. Eviction day. Mr. Hayes knocked on her door at noon. Not unkind, just resigned. Jessica, I'm sorry. If you can't pay by 5 p.m., I have to proceed. I understand. She looked at Jason's business card 17 times. Picked up her phone 9 times. Never dialed. Pride? Principle? She wasn't sure anymore. Maybe just stubbornness. Or maybe the last shred of dignity she had left. At 4:45 p.m., Jessica sat in her apartment surrounded by packed suitcases. Maribel was at Mrs. Chen's, protected from watching their life fall apart. Where would they go? The shelter had a 3-week waiting list. Mrs. Chen couldn't take them in permanently, her apartment was smaller than Jessica's. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Jessica stared at it. Debt collector. Hospital. Someone calling to make everything worse. She answered. Hello. Jessica. The voice was familiar. Strong. Urgent. It's Jason Barnett. My mother woke up today. Jessica's heart leaped. Oh my God, that's wonderful. She's going to make a full recovery. The doctors are amazed. Jason's voice carried joy she hadn't heard before. And Jessica, I told her about you. About what you did. You didn't have to do that. She wants to meet you. But first, I need to see you. Can you come to the office? Now. Jessica looked at the clock. 4:47 p.m. 13 minutes until eviction became reality. Mr. Barnett, Jason, I'm actually in the middle of. It's important. Please. I'm sending Marcus to pick you up. He'll be there in 15 minutes. Jessica felt helpless against the tide of events. Okay. Marcus arrived exactly on time. The Range Rover felt surreal in daylight, pulling up to her shabby apartment building like a spaceship landing in the wrong dimension. Neighbors stared from windows. They drove to Barnett Technologies headquarters. But this time, Jessica wasn't arriving through the service entrance at 10 p.m. in her gray uniform. She was walking through the front doors in daylight, in her worn jeans and faded jacket, as a visitor. The marble lobby she'd mopped 1,000 times looked different from this angle. Bigger. More imposing. The receptionist, blonde, polished, wearing more jewelry than Jessica had owned in her entire life, stared. Can I help you? Marcus's voice was firm. She's here for Mr. Barnett. The elevator to the executive floor felt like ascending into another world. Jessica's heart raced. Her palms were sweating. She clutched her purse, thrift store, held together with safety pins, like a lifeline. Jason met her in his corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows. The city sprawling below like a kingdom. She'd cleaned this office hundreds of times but never seen it like this, flooded with afternoon sunlight, alive with possibility. And on a large screen on his desk, a woman. Elegant, black, with kind eyes and a warm smile despite the hospital bed and 4 lines. Lorraine Barnett. You must be Jessica, Lorraine said. My son has told me about your extraordinary kindness. Jessica felt overwhelmed. I just did what was right, ma'am. That's exactly what makes it extraordinary, dear. Jason gestured for Jessica to sit. She perched on the edge of a leather chair that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Jessica, I need to tell you something. After you left the hospital that night, I couldn't stop thinking about what you said. About being present. About what really matters. He paused, his hands folded on the desk. I called an emergency board meeting yesterday. I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations. I'm promoting my COO to CEO. I'm going to focus on the things that matter, being with my mother during her recovery, fixing what I've broken in my life. That's wonderful, Jason. I'm happy for you. But I'm not disappearing. I'm restructuring. Creating a new position. Chief of Staff, someone who reports directly to me, who helps me see what I'm missing, who keeps me connected to what's real. His eyes locked with hers. I want it to be you. Jessica's stomach flipped. What? Jason, I'm a cleaner. I don't have. You have something nobody else in this building has, genuine integrity. You see what others miss. You've been invisible here for 3 years, which means you've seen everything. You're smart, observant, principled, and you understand what it means to struggle. I need that perspective. I don't have a degree. I didn't finish college, had to drop out when my mom got sick. I don't care about credentials. I care about character. And yours is impeccable. He slid a folder across the desk. Jessica stared at it like it might bite. This is the offer. $135,000 salary. Full health insurance, the premium plan that covers all of Maribel's treatments, no co-pays. Housing assistance, a company apartment while you get settled. On-site childcare. And a signing bonus that covers anything you owe. Jessica opened the folder with trembling hands. The numbers blurred. This was 3 years of her current salary. This was Maribel's insulin forever. This was never taking 2 buses again. This was being seen. Why are you doing this? Jason's answer was simple. Because you gave me back my humanity. The least I can do is give you a chance. Lorraine's voice came from the screen. Take it, dear. My son needs someone like you. And your daughter deserves to see her mother valued for who she truly is. Jessica's tears fell, hot and fast. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Say you'll trust that you deserve this. Because you do. Jessica looked at Jason, then at Lorraine, then down at the offer. She thought of Maribel. The eviction notice. 3 years of being invisible. That moment at the conference table, her hand hovering over the money. The choice she made, not for reward, but because it was right. Yes, Jessica said, her voice steady. I'll do it. Jason's smile transformed his face. Thank you. Now, first order of business, Marcus is going to take you to your landlord's office. We're taking care of your back rent and securing your apartment for the next 6 months while we transition you to company housing. Jason, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. Is that okay? Jessica couldn't speak. Just nodded. Marcus will also stop at the pharmacy. Maribel's insulin is covered, effective immediately. 3 years of holding it together shattered. Jessica broke down, her body shaking with sobs she'd been holding back since the night her mother died. Jason handed her tissues, waited patiently, his face full of understanding. When she finally composed herself, mascara streaked and red-eyed, she whispered, I don't know how to thank you. You already did. 3 nights ago, when you chose principle over survival. That thanked me more than you'll ever know. Marcus drove Jessica to Mr. Hayes's office first. The landlord's eyes went wide when Marcus handed him a certified check for $2,400 plus 6 months' rent in advance. Mrs. Solis, I don't understand. My employer is helping me get back on my feet, Jessica said simply. She couldn't stop smiling. At the pharmacy, the same pharmacist who'd been giving Jessica 3 days' supplies looked at the insurance card Marcus provided. Scanned it. Looked at her screen. Looked back at Jessica. This is This is the Executive Platinum Plan. Mrs. Solis, Maribel's insulin is covered at 100%. No copay. You can pick up a 3-month supply right now. Jessica's legs gave out. She sat down right there in the pharmacy aisle and cried. Marcus stood nearby, professional but with something soft in his expression. When she finally stood, he handed her a handkerchief, monogrammed, expensive, and said quietly, "Keep it. You've earned it." That night, Jessica picked up Maribel from Mrs. Chen's. Her daughter took one look at her face and said, "Mama, why are you smiling so big?" "Because something amazing happened today, baby." "Did you win the lottery?" Jessica laughed, pulling her daughter close. "Something better. I got to be myself, and the universe decided that was enough." Maribel didn't understand, but she hugged her mother tight anyway. "I told you that you were a superhero." 6 months later, Jessica sat in a bright office next to Jason's, wearing professional attire that still felt foreign, tailored blazer, crisp white blouse, slacks that didn't have holes in the pockets. Her desk held a computer, stacks of reports, and a framed photo of Maribel taken last week at the company picnic. Healthy. Thriving. Her blood sugar finally stable thanks to insurance that didn't require Jessica to choose between medicine and rent. The door burst open and Maribel herself appeared, backpack bouncing, her smile bright enough to light the whole floor. "Mama. Hey, baby. How was school?" Maribel spread her homework across Jessica's desk like she owned the place. Maybe she did. The executive floor was no longer a foreign country. It was home. Jessica reviewed the company diversity initiatives, her pen marking notes in the margins. Then she walked into Jason's office without knocking, a privilege earned through 6 months of proving she saw what others missed. "Jason, we need to talk about wages for service staff. The cleaners, the security guards, they're underpaid by about 30% compared to industry standards." Jason looked up from his laptop. "Show me the numbers." Jessica slid the report across his desk. "Already did the analysis. If we adjust wages and add benefits, we're looking at a $2.3 million annual increase in operating costs. But employee retention goes up, turnover costs go down, and we actually save money long term." Jason scanned the numbers, nodding slowly. "If you're right, we fix it." "I am right." He smiled. "This is why I hired you. To show me what I've been missing." Jessica had implemented other changes too. A daycare center on the 3rd floor. Mental health resources for all employees. A fund for emergency financial assistance. Anonymous feedback systems. Promotion pathways for service staff. Every initiative came from the same place. Her 3 years of being invisible had taught her exactly what people needed to feel seen. Raymond, the security guard, had approached her last week with tears in his eyes. "Mrs. Solis, the wage increase means I can afford my wife's cancer treatments. I don't know how to thank you." "You already did," Jessica had told him. "By being kind to me when I was just a cleaner who nobody noticed. I didn't forget that." Later that evening, after Maribel finished her homework and Marcus drove them to their new apartment, 2 bedrooms, actual furniture, a kitchen where the refrigerator worked, Jessica returned to her office to grab her coat. Old habit made her wipe down her desk with a tissue, straightening papers, making sure everything was perfect. She caught her reflection in the darkened window. A woman in professional clothes. Valued. Respected. Seen. She wasn't invisible anymore. "Mama, what are you smiling about?" Maribel stood in the doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Just remembering the night everything changed. When you met Mr. Barnett." Jessica thought about that moment. Her hand hovering over $100 bills. The choice that should have been easy but was the hardest thing she'd ever done. "When I chose to be who I really am, even when it cost me everything. And the universe found a way to reward that." Maribel tilted her head, considering. Like in my book about the honest woodcutter who got the golden axe. Jessica laughed. Exactly like that, baby. They walked out together, through the executive floor where decisions that moved billions happened on surfaces Jessica no longer cleaned but now helped shape. Past the conference room where the money had been. Past the elevator where she'd spent 3 years being invisible. Maria, her former cleaning colleague, was working the night shift. She waved as they passed. Jessica. Looking good. Jessica stopped, gave her a hug. Maria, come to my office tomorrow during your break. I want to talk to you about something. The next day, Maria would learn about the new management training program Jessica had created. 3 months later, Maria would be supervising the entire cleaning staff with a 40% raise. A year later, she'd be promoted to facilities manager. Because Jessica never forgot where she came from. Never forgot what it felt like to be invisible. And she was determined that nobody else in that building would ever feel that way again. If this story moved you, if Jessica's choice inspired you, if you believe that integrity matters more than money, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, smash that like button to show that character still matters in this world. Second, subscribe and turn on notifications because I share stories like this that prove good people still exist. And third, this is the most important one, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's struggling, someone who's facing an impossible choice, someone who needs to know that doing the right thing still matters. Drop a comment telling me, would you have kept the money or returned it? Be honest. No judgment. And tell me what you learned from Jessica's story. Let's create a community of people who choose character over cash, every single time. The camera pulls back through floor-to-ceiling windows. Mother and daughter, silhouetted against the city lights. The modern office now a place where Jessica belongs. Where integrity isn't just rewarded, it's essential. Jessica's voice carries over the final image. I used to clean these floors thinking nobody saw me. Turns out, someone was watching the whole time. Not a security camera. Not a person. But something bigger, the universe, God, karma, whatever you want to call it. And it was waiting to see who I'd choose to be when nobody was looking. I learned something that night that changed my life forever. Wealth isn't measured in bank accounts. It's measured in the choices you make when survival is screaming at you to compromise. It's measured in the person you become when nobody's watching. It's measured in the legacy you leave for your children, not money, but values. Not possessions, but principles. That $1,000 I returned. It bought me something worth infinitely more. It bought me the ability to look my daughter in the eyes and show her, not tell her, but show her, that character matters. That integrity isn't something you claim, it's something you prove. That who you are in the dark defines who you'll become in the light. Jason didn't give me a job because I was qualified. He gave me a job because I was trustworthy. And in a world where everyone's chasing credentials, competence, and connections, trust is the rarest commodity of all. So here's what I want you to take from my story. The next time you face an impossible choice, the next time you find yourself alone with an opportunity to take something that doesn't belong to you, the next time you could lie and nobody would know, remember that someone is always watching. You are. And you have to live with the person you become in that moment for the rest of your life. Choose integrity. Choose kindness. Choose to do right even when it's the hardest choice you'll ever make. Even when your daughter needs medicine. Even when you're facing eviction. Even when survival is screaming at you to look the other way. Because that's when the magic happens. That's when invisible becomes unforgettable. That's when a single moment of character becomes a lifetime of transformation. That's when you discover that the universe rewards truth in ways you never imagined possible. I went from $12.47 in my bank account to a 6-figure salary. From facing eviction to having a home. From watching my daughter go without medicine to having full healthcare coverage. From being invisible to being essential. But the real transformation wasn't in my bank account. It was in my daughter's eyes when she said, "Mama, you're a superhero." It was in the moment I looked in the mirror and recognized the woman staring back, someone who chose principle over survival and won. The money Jason left on that table was a test. I didn't know it then, but the universe was asking me a question: who are you when nobody's watching? And my answer, my choice to return that money, was the most important decision of my life. Not because it led to a job. Not because it led to financial security. But because it proved to me that I was the person I always hoped I was. That poverty hadn't stolen my integrity. That desperation hadn't corrupted my character. That I could look my daughter in the face and honestly tell her that doing the right thing always matters, even when it costs you everything. 3 years ago, I was invisible. Today, I'm unforgettable, not because of what I have, but because of who I chose to be. And that's a wealth no bank account can measure. The lights in the office go dark. But Jessica Solis shines brighter than ever. The screen fades to black with white text appearing. Character is doing the right thing when nobody is watching. J.C. Watts. Jessica H. Solis is now Chief of Staff at Barnett Technologies, where she's implementing company-wide initiatives to ensure every employee, regardless of position, is valued, compensated fairly, and given opportunities for advancement. Jason R. Barnett's mother, Lorraine, made a full recovery and now volunteers at the hospital where she was treated, mentoring young mothers facing financial hardship. Maribel Solis, now 7, maintains stable blood sugar levels and continues to dream of becoming a doctor. Raymond, the security guard, received a promotion to head of security with full benefits that covered his wife's cancer treatment. She is now in remission. Maria Rodriguez completed the management training program and now oversees all facilities operations at Barnett Technologies with a 60% salary increase. The cleaning staff at Barnett Technologies received a 35% wage increase, full benefits, and access to educational opportunities, all because one invisible woman chose to be seen for who she truly was.